New moves going on there. The Franklin's moved, the Miller's moved. Chaos all around. Isn't moving fun? Yes. Then agreed, right? Come on. Of course, we had the tagging. That was awesome. Crazy week. You know, I don't know if you know this, but KC got asked to be one of the counselors for Ignite. About that. Crazy things. You know, this morning, if you're here late, we had a little situation. We had an alarm go off that wouldn't stop. And of course, the person who was answering the door was deaf. We're like, you gotta be kidding me. Of course, he could see the lights, so on and so forth. But he had no idea how this thing went off, and they said it was going off when they got here this morning. Of course, the firemen were here twice. They said there's nothing we can do. Chris Shaver was here, and he got a hold of one of the engineers to come on in, and it was about 10 minutes to 10, and he finally turned it on. That's living on the edge. Don't you love living on the edge? No. We were coming up with every idea known to man of what we were going to do this morning. It was like, let's go to the park. Yeah. Joe goes, yeah, if you have over 50 people, break it up. And it's went up there. They were thinking, okay, hey, let's go over to, the basketball courts, right? We did it there before. So I grabbed got the custodian, we went over there, and he's all the resurfacing the floor. Of course, all these obstacles. And then I thought about the message. Somebody brought it up, actually. Last week, like Saul, what do? Kill a fat lamb or sacrifice something? Panic. But God came through. And this next week is going to be awesome also. Of course, we're going to have baptism today. That's awesome. And then Corey Blackwell is coming in. He's actually traveling around trying to find a school for his son to go to college. Oh, wow. We're hoping it's here. That'd be awesome. Hey, man, that would be awesome. And Corey Blackwell used to play for the NBA. Then he became an evangelist and was over the Middle East, which is pretty radical. A lot of Muslim countries there. But he's going to be here Wednesday night. If you guys can all be here, that'd be awesome. I know it's last minute. We're going to try to figure out childcare for that. So he's going to be here, and then he's going to look at the 5 that we're going to send out. He's going to check you out. That's how it works here. And then, of course, we got the mercy thing going. I'm excited about that. Victor Montano told me last year that somehow they put on music and they wanted to dance. And this one older woman would not let go of Victor. He's like, you never know what's going to happen in the kingdom. Now, Barb and I are not going to be here. We're not going to be able to do the mercy thing. We're going to be up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's my mother's 80th birthday. And there's a wedding there. And I'm going to try to swing by and see my dad for Father's Day. And I thought, oh, what do? It's mercy. So I went and talked to Joe about it. And he said, you need to go. And you get it past Joe, you're okay, right? You guys know Joe? Joey Chips. Yeah. And and then I called Chris Broom. I thought it would be a good disciple. I'll get advice. And he said, talk to Joe. And I said, I already talked to Joe. And I'm okay. Chaos. All sorts of crazy things. The last 2 Sundays we talked about King Saul. Come on. And for those of you who weren't here, King Saul was the first king of Israel. Before that, they had prophets and judges leading. And the people said, no, give us a king, like all the other nations around us. And God says, am I not good enough as your king? And they said, no, we want a king. So they give him Saul. Come on. And he starts off very humble. Humble, he's hiding in the luggage, doesn't want to do it, right? And but he decides he's going to do it, and he begins to inspire others with his leadership, and he has victory after victory. But then, those victories were his downfall. And last week we looked at the beginning of the downfall of the king.
Come on, bro.
Pride got in there, he got a big head, yeah, I'm all that kind of thing, made a monument for himself. But he also had a reactionary spirit. And people were not sure about this guy. Because he just reacts. And he wasn't faithful to the Lord. And today we're going to finish the series on Saul. And the title is Saul Defeated by Sin.
Amen.
Let's open our Bibles to 1 Samuel chapter 15. We're going to begin where we let off. Come on, Jay. In 1 Samuel 13, you don't have to go there, turn to 15, but God said, listen, I'm gonna appoint another person, another king. I'm gonna anoint him, who is a man after my own heart. And later we find out that that's David, who kills Goliath. But in 1 Samuel 15, verse 35, it says, until the day Samuel died, he did not go to see Saul again. So Samuel mourned for him, and the Lord was grieved that he had made Saul king over Israel. And you know you have a huge downfall when God says, I'm grieved that you're king. And it would be horrible for God to feel that way about us. And the question is, do we grieve God or do we inspire God with our faith and what we do? So David comes on the scene. And he's just a kid. He's like a teenager. And Samuel is called by God to anoint him as the next king. And he has amazing faith. Let's go to chapter 17, verse 4. And we're going to look at the next challenge that Saul has. And it's a big challenge, and his name is Goliath. Okay. Chapter 17, verse 4. Now remember, this is about Saul and not David. I'm going to focus on Saul here. It says a champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. He was over 9 feet tall. That's a tall dude. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze weighing 5,000 shekels. You look down the bottom page here, it's 125 pounds. I mean, his armor weighed 125 pounds. Some of you don't even weigh that much.
Yeah.
Can you imagine running with that on you? Come on. On his legs, he wore bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung on his back. His spear shaft was like a weaver's rod, and its iron point weighed 600 shekels, which is 15 pounds. Now imagine if he was standing before you, and he's got this weapon where the head of it is 15 pounds, comes to a point, and he's going to throw that at you. You imagine that thing hits you in the chest? Bam! You're done. You're toast. Look at what Goliath says, verse 8. Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. He's able to fight and kill me. We will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us. Then the Philistine said, this day I defy the ranks of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other. On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. Here you got Goliath defying God, defying Israel. And what is Saul's spirit? Scared. And all his men were the same. They were just imitating his spirit. Now this is not a great leader. This is not it. Point number 1, conflict avoider. Oh, baby. What would you do? Come on. With this guy? It says he was dismayed and terrified. Well, how would you have responded? It comes down to your faith. Goliath is a huge dude. Did you guys ever have a bully in your life?
Yeah. Short-lived.
Yeah, have you ever been bullied? Yeah. You know, I remember growing up, and was in a middle school, and there was a lot of fighting going on, a lot of fighting. And I had two guys that just didn't like me. Now, when I came in, it was 7th through 9th grade. So I came in. I was, a lot smaller, and I could get pummeled pretty easy. You can relate with this? And I remember I had a big brother. And my brother in 9th grade was like 6'2". Great big guy, well known for his fighting, all that kind of stuff. And you don't want to touch me, because I have a big brother. And there's something great of feeling secure about this dude. I remember one time I'm walking down the stairs and a guy kicks my books out of my hand. Don't you love it when people do that stuff? Of course, I run to get the books. And I didn't know it, but my brother was behind him. My brother grabbed him by the head. And he just kind of, hey, dude, how you doing today? He took his knuckle and started putting it in his eyeball. He's like, oh, leave me alone. I didn't know it was your brother. Of course, you're smart enough not to say anything against the guy because who knows what's going to happen later. But you've got these instances in life, and how do you handle it? I had two other guys like that, who just kind of didn't like me. And one guy was always swinging at me, and I said, "What's the issue, dude?" And he said, "I don't like your face." I didn't understand that. Well, I got here. Oh yeah. We had it out. But how do you face the challenges of life? I know that feeling of fear. I had friends who get beat up so bad that all they could do is lay there and throw up. That's hard to watch. And there's a feeling of fear that you have, like, I'm going to run quick to get my room, that kind of thing. Find you anything. That fear, how do you deal with that? Are you a powerful person? Are you a conflict avoider? Which are you? Come on, Jay. You cannot be weak. That is not God's spirit. How do people view you? Are they inspired how you engage in the battle, whatever it is? Or do they not want to be around you? Do you bring them down? You cannot be a weak leader. Come on. What is God's spirit? God's a burning fire. Matthew 11, you don't have to turn there. It says, from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven is forcefully advancing, and forceful men lay hold of it. We need to be forceful people because we have a powerful message. And we need to stand for God's honor. Otherwise, they will give in to the other powerful people out there who are trying to pull them to do other things.
That's true, bro. Come on.
What is the Goliath in your life? It may not be a person. Maybe a challenging situation. Maybe it's a disease, an illness. What is the Goliath that brings you to your knees, that causes you to fear? In this situation, you have a young man come to the rescue of David. He comes on the scene and he provides powerful leadership. Chapter 17, verse 32.
Come on, Jay. Come on, bro. Preach the word.
We find that Goliath has been coming out. It says for like 40 days, saying the same thing. And David comes on the scene in verse 32. He says, David said to Saul, let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him. Saul replied, you are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a boy, and he has been a fighting man from his youth. David said to Saul, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off the sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by the hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies armies of the living God. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of the Philistine. Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. You know, you got to look at the situation here. David's a kid. And Saul, you know, if you read earlier, it says he's a head taller than most men. He's a big guy. And he initially tries to dissuade David. You can't do it. That's not the heart here. We can do all things. Saul is even trying to pull David down. Yeah. David says, I can surely do it.
Come on.
And Saul's response is, go, may the Lord be with you. You think Saul would have been convicted that a kid has the guts to fight Goliath? You think he'd say, you know what, doggone it, I'm going to do it. Where's my sword? Let's do this. No. Lord be with you. You got to remember what Goliath said. You lose, we take over. And he's putting the armies in the hands of a teenager. Now there's a coward. There is a coward.
Come on, bro.
But David has the spirit of faith. Saul was willing to lose the kingdom. You let someone else do your job. Come on. Parents, you let the kids do the job. Fathers, you take control of the family. How about you roommates? Come on. Come on. Chaos in the house. Gas is going on, but no one takes control. That just hit the heart a little bit here. All right? It's amazing how many dishes you can get into a sink, isn't it? It's kind of crazy. And you know, you hear these problems going on in these households, singles households. You say, okay, well, you know, are you having family times, you get together, you're praying, you're talking? No. Well, who's leading this thing? Who's doing it? You know? I saw something move in your room.
Oh my God.
Where? Are you a conflict avoider? Now, I tell you what, as a leader, I have to do it all the time. All the time, I need to challenge people. And you know what, really, it's loving people. And there's no change without conflict. People don't naturally just get better. Once in a while, you get that soul who can raise up to the challenge. But a lot of times, we need somebody get in there and give us a little kick. You know, Hebrews 10, spur them on. All right, use a spur. Get them going. Teenagers, get out of line. Who's going to call them out? Come on. Love them through it. How about when people owe you money? No, seriously. You lend out money, and they don't give it back. Oh, you know, I just, you know. Are you going to talk to them about, well, I'm just going to, up to the Lord. You're being a conflict avoider. If they're going to do that to you, they're going to do it to 10 other people. All right? And that's sin. Come on. It's a lack of discipline. You got to help them. If they're doing it to you, they don't respect you. They don't.
Come on, bro.
I remember getting with a brother last week, was very obstinate. And he was just like, no, I'm not going to do these things. You know, and I pulled Chris Wooden in there. You know, the heavy hitter, right? Chris Wooden.
Yeah, right.
You know, I thought, good cop, bad cop. He said, I've been bad cop too many years. Somebody else, you be bad cop. But you know, the brother turned. And even his wife was, please help us. And I thought that would break him. But it had to be a hard talk.
Yeah.
Now, I've been the receiver of those kind of talks.
Come on, bro.
All right? Ask Barb.
Well,
She'll tell you about it.
come on.
But we need it. Why? Because we get so selfish.
Yeah.
But I would not change. I would not have changed if someone was a conflict avoider in my life. We need it. If you love someone, you will do it. And Saul was just flat selfish.
Yeah.
Look in verse 41. Here's David. Meanwhile, the Philistine with his shield bearer in front of him kept coming closer to David. He looked David over and saw that he was only a boy, ruddy and handsome, and he despised him. Kind of like Umberto. Handsome. Everybody despises him. I'm just kidding. He said to David, "Am I a dog? Did you come at me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. "Come here," he said, "and I'll give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field." David said to the Philistine, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I will strike you down, cut off your head." Come on. "Today I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds of the air and the beasts of the earth, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or by spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands." As the Philistine moved close to David to attack him, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet him. Reaching into his bag to take out a stone, he swung it and struck the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, without a sword in his hand. He struck down the Philistine and killed him. David ran, stood over him. He took hold of the Philistine's sword, drew it from the scabbard. After he killed him, he cut off his head with his sword. The Philistines saw that their hero was dead. They turned and ran. Then the men of Israel and Judah surged forward with a shout and pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Ekron. Their dead was strewn all along the Sharim road to Gath and Ekron. When the Israelites returned from chasing the Philistines, they plundered their camp. David took the Philistine's head and brought it to Jerusalem, and he put the Philistine's weapon in his own tent. "Wow, here you got a boy," he said. "You're a boy. Am I a dog?" Goliath was offended. But David said, "Listen, it's not about me. It's about God. It's about the army that you're defying." And the question for us is, do we honor God with the battle? Are we willing to run and attack when necessary? You see a problem, you attack it.
Come on, bro.
You can't be afraid of confrontation, conflict. You attack sin. You
Come
deal with
on.
it. It doesn't go away. It gets worse.
Come on, Jay.
Do not allow it to stay in the camp.
Come on.
Well, people quake with fear because nobody's willing to take hold and change the world around them. Our God is a powerful God. I don't know. David had a slingshot there. I don't know if he was on aim or not. He could have shot it that way and it come around and bam, he still hit him. I'm sure God wanted that guy dead. He could have tripped, fell down, and he killed him. That's how God works. But it worked. That's great. Hey. If you're not willing to confront, shame on you. Shame on you.
Come on.
Selfish. You need love. Jesus was not a conflict avoider. He got killed because he believed. David had an attack mentality that needs to be us. And then he inspired the rest of the army. Then he cut off this guy's head. Can you imagine? It says he walked to Jerusalem. I don't know how far that is, but kind of gory. but he inspired a whole nation. And that's what we can do too. You can change Chicago by standing up. Chapter 18, verse 1, second point, jealousy. After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan, who's Jonathan? Saul's son, the next guy who's supposed to be king. After David had finished talking to Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. From that day, Saul kept David with him and did not let him return to his father's house. And Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his tunic and even his sword, his bow, and his belt. Whatever Saul sent him to do, David did it so successfully that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. This pleased all the people and Saul's officers as well. When the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, the women came out of the towns of Israel to meet King Saul with singing and dancing and joyful songs and with tambourines and lutes. As they danced, they sang, Saul has slain his thousands and David his tens of thousands. Saul was very angry. This refrain galled him. They have credited David with tens of thousands, he thought. With me only thousands, what more can he get but the kingdom? And from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. All right, there's a lot of things going on here. It says Jonathan became one in spirit with David. Now, this is Saul's son. Now, if you're a father and your son starts to go to somebody else as their hero, and you're the king, can you imagine how this bothered Saul? Come on. Imagine Jonathan thinking, that should have been my dad out there. Someone else had to rescue us. And I'm sure Jonathan didn't say that, but the feelings are still there. And he says he loved David as himself. Why? Because people want to be inspired. They love people of courage. Yeah, come on. And they want to attach themselves to it because they want to be on the edge. They want to be in that battle, the victorious battle. Come on. And it says he gave him what? His bow, his tunic, his sword, his bow, his belt. That was to signify, you know what, David, I'm going to hand over the kingdom to you. Jonathan thought so much of the kingdom, he says, you know what, you're going to be a better king than me. You need to take charge. I just want to be with you. Come on. And it bothered Saul. And then you get the songs. Hey, Saul, you know, hey, slay your thousands, but David, tens of thousands. And it says this galled him, bothered him. And he began to be jealous of David. Verse 12, it says Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with David but had left Saul. So he sent David away from him and gave him a command over 1,000 men. David led the troops in their campaigns. In everything he did, he had great success because the Lord was with him. When Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he led their campaigns. He was afraid of David because he knew he had stolen the hearts of the people. And rather than supporting David, he began to become jealous. And it affected the whole of the kingdom, as we shall soon see. And he knew eventually he would lose that throne. What do you do when you have a rising star in your midst? You have a guy or gal that's raising up quickly. You can tell God is raising them up. How do you respond? Are you happy for him? Come on. Or are you jealous? Could be at work, could be a family member, or in the church. Are you happy for their success? Yeah. Come on. I'm with you heart and soul. God's chosen you. Where's your attitude? He's so awesome. Yeah. You know what I mean? Okay, here we go. destroys relationships, and it creates hatred.
Yeah.
It will destroy you. You'll get consumed with it if you don't deal with it. It doesn't go away. You got to confess that thing and deal with it. Chapter 19, verse 1. Let's look at how far it goes. Saul told his son Jonathan and all the attendants to kill David. But Jonathan was very fond of David and warned him, "My father Saul is looking for a chance to kill you." Wow! Got to the point where he just wants to kill David. You got to realize God is the one who puts you into leadership. God's going to take you out. You don't realize. Now, he's calling other people to kill David. Can't even do it himself. And now he's calling other people into sin. And you can do that with jealousy. You can throw things on someone and, they did this, they did that. Kind of make it sound different. You can point out all their negative parts and tear them down. Come on. And you can get people to side with you. That's just evil. That's wrong. I've seen it done. I've seen it done in families. It's sin. It's destructive. Chapter 20, verse 30. It says, Saul's anger flared up at Jonathan. And he said to him, "You son of a perverse and rebellious woman." I was blaming his wife.
Oh, wow.
Blame the wife. Don't I know that you have sided with the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of the mother who bore you? As long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now send and bring him to me, for he must die. Why should he be put to death? What has he done? Jonathan asked his father. But Saul hurled the spear at him to kill him. Then Jonathan knew that his father intended to kill David. Jonathan got up from the table in fierce anger. On that second day of the month, he did not eat because he was grieved at his father's shameful treatment of David. Wow, he's taken this to another level. But he says something very interesting here. I mean, look at this. He's trying to intimidate his son now. He's throwing spears at his son. But he tries to get him to choose sides. And he throws out the whole kingdom thing. Don't you know that you're going to lose the kingdom? A lot is at stake here. And he assumed that his son wanted to be king. And see, he manipulates, and he tries to pull him into his sin. You're going to lose the kingdom. Does Jonathan want the kingdom? And you look at David, and David just wants to honor God. And that's what God blesses him. His fierce loyalty to God. And Jonathan's fierce loyalty to David and God. And it galled Saul. And see, a lot of times in our lives, we can let sin reign to the point where we will make people choose sides. You're going to lose this if you don't come with me. And it's very, very destructive. Come on. But Jonathan had already surrendered it. Jonathan said, "I know it's your kingdom. I'm giving it to you." You got to fight for unity. Right? Yeah. On every level. Chapter 22, verse 17. There's a lot in this. We could go on forever. Chapter 22, verse 17. David's running from Saul. He says, "Okay, you want the kingdom? Fine, I'm out of here. I don't want to just unify the kingdom. So I'm going to let you be king. And I'm just going to go." But what happens is all these people begin to follow David. And Saul's ticked off about that. So Saul goes after him. And what happens is he shows up at an area, a city. We'll take it from there. Chapter 22, verse 17. Then the king ordered the guards at his side, "Turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because they too have sided with David. They knew he was fleeing, yet they did not tell me." But the king's officials were not willing to raise a hand to strike the priests of the Lord. The king then ordered them, "You turn and strike down the priests." Now this guy is not an Israelite, all right? So there, the Edomite turned and struck them down. That day he killed 85 men who wore the linen ephod. He also put to the sword Nob, the town of the priests, with its men and women, its children and infants, and its cattle, donkeys, and sheep. Wow! He has really crossed the line here. He's killing the priests of the Lord. He is so bent on going after David. Anybody who's in the way, we're going to kill too. And in fact, the women, children, and infants. And you can see how his heart was stolen. Jump to chapter 31. Saul is constantly going after David, trying to find him, and he even inquires of a medium, because he is afraid. Afraid of David, afraid of the Philistines. So what level do you let fear reign in your heart? In your jealousy. Chapter 31, verse 1. Saul is now in battle with the Philistines. It says, now the Philistines fought against Israel. The Israelites fled before them, and many fell slain on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines pressed hard after Saul and his sons, and they killed his sons Jonathan, Abinadab, and Melchi-Shua. The fighting grew fierce around Saul, and when the archers overtook him, they wounded him critically. Saul said to his armor-bearer, draw your sword and run me through, or these uncircumcised fellows will come and run me through and abuse me. But his armor-bearer was terrified and would not do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. When the armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he too fell on his sword and died with him. So Saul and his 3 sons and his armor-bearer and all his men died together that same day. It's the death of a king. What he feared overtook him. How different would it have been if he went to battle against Goliath? Even if he died that day. Instead, he ends up committing suicide on the battlefield. Wow. And you look at how he degraded himself. He wasn't looking for God's honor. He was looking for his own honor, and his fear controlled him. The self-focus consumed him. How tragic. It comes down to, are you controlled by what others think? Are you controlled by what God thinks? Come on. If you're controlled by what others think, you're always doing things to appease people. And you'll never, ever be able to do it because there's too many people. And everybody's got their own opinion. And you can't be a chameleon. And so there's this frustration that will overtake you. We care too much what people think of us. We don't share our faith. We avoid conflict versus just doing what's right. And we're jealous. How are they looking at me versus how they're looking at him? Don't care about it. Care what God thinks. That needs to be us. Do you applaud when others succeed? If you don't, it's a huge trap. There's a whinge in there. And you need to hate it because it'll corrupt and it'll consume you. Do you feel threatened? Or are you free? I remember years ago, the temptation that I had, people growing up in leadership, and I remember thinking this very thought: do I care what they think, or do I care what God thinks? And I think in our whole lives we care so much. The world trains us to care what people think. It's all about image. And what happens is we give over to it not even knowing it, because we're bombarded with it. You got to wear the right clothes or you're weird. You got to listen to the right music or you're weird. You know, they even have a magazine called Self. I mean, think about that. That's our focus, is self. And it'll consume you. But I remember years ago thinking, I just need to throw this away. And this huge relief came off my shoulders. This burden. I thought, wow, it's so free just to be myself. and care what God thinks? Are you controlled by what others think of you? Or is there a freedom? You can tell you're joyful no matter what. Yeah, I blew it. I failed. Amen. I'm a failure. Praise the Lord. Let's all be failures together. You're going to fail. Anybody in here not fail? All right? It's great being a failure then. But what we got to do is we got to learn as we fail. That's the discipling by God. Saul didn't learn that. He didn't deal with the sin in his heart, and he was controlled by what people thought. Then you got David. David was awesome, and he didn't care. Come with me. I'm going to attack this dude because I care about what God thinks, and I care about what he's saying and how he's treating God and the army. And it motivated him to do something right. And either you will motivate people, or you will be an obstacle to them. Saul was an obstacle to the kingdom. And that's the question you got to ask yourself. Do I inspire people to do more, or do I allow what my fears do to dictate everybody around me? This week was the 70th anniversary of D-Day. All right, that was the invasion of the United States and all their armies into France. And it was the biggest invasion that's ever happened in history. I think it was like 150,000 men that came in. And they had the paratroopers coming in, and they'd land behind the line. And, it's great because I was able to talk to Barb's dad, and he came in about 3 months after D-Day. But he came in with heavy artillery. And he worked a gun, this huge gun. And he fought all the way into the Battle of the Bulge. The Battle of the Bulge is where the Americans were in the middle, the Germans were around them, and then they were further out throwing bombs on the Germans. And it was a constant warfare. But I look at that group of men, what they had to do to face the enemy. How they stormed the beach, and they were just mowed down by the Germans. And the only thing the Americans could really do is overwhelm them with force. And it was all or nothing. And I don't know if you've ever read or seen the movie Band of Brothers. Awesome. All about leadership. And all the stuff we're talking about today is in those books. And there's story after story about leaders that failed and leaders that rose up from the ranks, took control, and rescued people. There was a sergeant in the Band of Brothers who everybody loved this guy because he was so humble, but he was firm, and he didn't avoid conflict. And he inspired the group, but their commanding officer was a coward. And what he would do is he would lead them through anger. Do it, do it. People hated him. And after a while, they quit doing it. Because it was motivation from fear. And this guy who was in the ranks grabbed the hold of men and said, listen, we need to do this. Doesn't matter what he says. We have a cause here. And see, we have a cause too. Are you going to raise up and attack, or are you going to avoid conflict? Come on. I think about Victor Montano. And, Victor's only been here for about 2.5 years, baptized 2.5 years ago. The guy's taken on the whole Latin ministry. There's a sermons every week. Come on. And he has to challenge the older people. He has to go in there and lay it out. And I'm very inspired because he doesn't let him affect. I don't think I could have done it at his age. I really don't. It's amazing to me that he will go in and challenge situations. And he's not married, he has no kids, but the people respect him. And they listen to him because they look at his life. And he challenges people. And if they give him any in-your-face kind of stuff, he says, you want to do it? No, well then, I'm doing it. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. People respect that. And he's grabbed a hold of it. He's done an amazing job. Are you that leader? Or are you that Saul? Come on. There's two couples in the Latin ministry who rallied around him. Lalo and Lupe. Awesome couple. Great. They got their sin. They got their problems. But you know, they want to do what's right. And they're rallying around this kid. And then you have Javier and Lulu. I'm just so impressed with this couple. He's young, baptized a year ago. Yeah. But he has a conviction. And I remember being at a leaders meeting with them, with just his group. And he said, okay, you know what, guys, I'm done with this. We're going to talk. And this is what we're going to talk about. And there was this tension. But he laid it out, and they said, all right, you know what we need to do is we need to get together and get united. But if he hadn't done that, it wouldn't have happened. Yeah. So I'm going to close with a challenge here. I want you to ask yourself, what conflict are you avoiding? What is the Goliath in your life that has stopped you from moving forward? Confess it and attack it. Who is that David that you felt that twinge of jealousy from? Applaud them. Support them. This is how the kingdom moves. And to God be the glory.